everyone. How's it going? It's Dave from Easy Solutions. Today, I'm going to walk you through the invoice and billing management spreadsheet. It's available on my Etsy shop, and I will leave the link to purchase in the description. So let's get started. Here's the workbook, and this is what the demo looks like. It's already partially completed, and when you purchase the product, you'll have the demo and also a blank template. I'm going to walk through the demo and give you a quick rundown of the workbook. So these are the tabs. So the setup tab is the start tab. There's some information here, what you need to enter related to your company information that generates on the different invoice templates and the payment information for you to put on your invoice template. Second tab is your client tracker, where you'll enter your client name, client ID number associated with each client name. If you have a parent client, so some companies like to group certain sub-clients within a parent client and bill out the parent client for various different client name work. You can also track your client address, email, and phone number. And all of this information, once you enter it once, it'll populate throughout the workbook and make it easier for you to update each of your invoice templates. Next is your invoice creation tab. So this is where you will select your client and put in the necessary information to populate an invoice. And I'm going to walk you through this in a little more detail in a minute. Next is your invoice summary. So this spreadsheet, it generates automatically and pulls information automatically from your invoice creation and client tracker tab. And basically it gives you a bird's eye view of various invoice and cash receipts information that you've entered. Next is your 5 different invoice templates that come with the workbook. These invoice templates generate automatically, and you can look through them and see which one you like best and works best for you. They're in various different formats. Some of them have the description showing in detail, some of them don't, some of them have the quantity of the product, and some of them don't. But basically having 5 different invoice templates gives you, the option to use which one works best for you and your company. So again, there's 5 invoice templates that generate automatically. Lastly, is a blank invoice template. If you want to create your own invoice, basically what you'll do is you'll create that invoice in this white box, and the information for you to populate is generating here on the right. So I'll walk you through in a little bit how to start creating your own invoice template. Now let's go into a little more detail and work through the workbook. So again, the setup tab, what you'll want to do is you'll want to enter some of these or all of these descriptions here for the information to generate on the invoice. So my company name is Easy Solutions. My email, davidshimon@gmail.com. Phone number, 516-993-2398. Website, easysolutions.com. And you can also type in the payment information to generate on the invoice. Chase Bank, Easy Solutions checking is the account. And, so on. Let's just enter 300 East 53rd Street, New York. And you have the options to add other instructions here that'll generate on your invoice. So once you enter this information, you can see that it pulls to each of your invoices. Here's your company information. Here's your payment information that's generating automatically. And on each of the invoice, it populates automatically. So if you want to make an adjustment to your bank again, that information is edited on the setup tab. So if you go to the setup tab and you want to change this to Amex, whatever, now it updates on each of the invoice templates. So next is your client tracker. So what you want to do is you want to enter your client name here, and you only want to enter one client name. So you don't want to have duplicates. If you have duplicates, the text will highlight in pink and notify you, but you don't want to have duplicates. So then you enter a client ID number. Again, you don't want to have duplicate client ID numbers. And if you have a parent client, you can enter that in, and the address and email and phone number. The only fields that are required here are the client name and a unique ID number. The rest are not required. And on the top here, just for easy sort and organization purposes, you have some pre-made slicers. So if you want to search and just see your information for a specific client, or 2 clients, or 3 clients, or if you want to search by just a parent client, looks like we only have 1 client under Allied Holdings. And if you want to search by parent client Manhattan Realty, you can see the clients that are set up. So next is your invoice creation tab. So what you'll do is only enter in white fields. So let's enter a new one here just to show you. So let's say we want to create a new invoice for 100 Venture LLC. So what I'll do from the dropdown is select 100 Venture LLC, and this field is populating the dropdown list from the client tracker tab. And then next, what we want to do is type in a new invoice number, invoice 21. And once we enter the invoice number, the client ID and the parent client will pull. So next, we will issue the date that we want to issue the invoice. So let's do today's date, 3/19/23. And let's say it's due in 30 days. It's due 4/18/23. And let's say we want to give the client a 5% discount rate. We'll enter that in. And let's say we will update the status to create invoice. And that's entered. The invoice has been entered now. Next, what we want to do is we want to enter the details to generate on the invoice. So you have the option to enter 5 different line item descriptions in these sections over here to the right. So let's say we will populate this information. I'm just going to copy and paste from above to save time. And let's do that for invoice detail number 2 as well. And invoice detail number 3. And again, we've entered the quantity, the line item price, the description, the short description, and the long description. And let's just change the amounts so that they're not the same as before. Let's make this 3,500, and let's make this 3,000, and let's make this 2,000. So now we've entered our 3 invoice details, and you could see over here to the left that you have the total billed, which is the sum of the 3 line item prices. So here you have the tax, and you have the option to include tax in your invoice amounts. So to include or exclude tax, if you want to exclude it, all you have to do is put in 0 here, and you can see that all the tax is gone. But let's say there's a sales tax of 8%. So if we put in 8 here, you can see that it calculates automatically 680. And the discount applied based on what we entered for each invoice. So if we want to give this client a 5% discount, it's backing out 5% or $425. If we don't want to provide the client with a discount, we just enter 0 here, and you can see that the discount has disappeared. And this is the total invoice amount, including tax. And let's say we want to use a 5% discount. It's going to be $8,755. So next, the invoice tracking section. When the invoice comes in, we want to select fully paid. And just to backstep a little bit, you have different options here of the status of your invoices that you want to, keep up to date for yourself. So if you send the invoice, if you receive a partial deposit. So again, I'm going to select fully paid, and let's say we received it on 4/1/23. Obviously that's in the future, but let's just use that date for now. And let's say we received the full amount, 8,755, which was the amount outstanding here. If we only received 6,000, you can see that the amount outstanding is 2,755. And later when the rest is received, we'll update this to 8,755. So good, we've entered a new invoice. So next is your invoice summary. Again, this tab populates automatically. It gives you a summary of all your invoices entered. Here in the invoice summary section, you can see your number of invoices and the various statuses they were in, and the revenue related to each invoice status. Over here is a summary of all of your invoices and the total outstanding number of invoices and amount. Here you have the total overdue and the total amount overdue. In this section, you kind of have the same information, except you have the ability to dive into the detail and look at this information for a specific client or parent client. So if you want to view by parent client, again, the parent clients are the clients that you've entered over here in the parent client section. You just select parent and select the parent client, and now you can see the information populate for that client, for that parent client. And if you want to see the same for a specific client, you select client and select the client, and you can see that 575 Lex Avenue has 2 invoices. None of them are outstanding and none of them are overdue. You've collected revenue of 6,490 for this client. And over here, again, you have various slicers so that you can view this information however you want. So if we want to see all fully paid invoices, you just select the fully paid and it kind of dives into that detail for you. If you want to see for this one client, 575 Lex Ave, just select it again, and here are the 2 total invoices. And let's clear those filters. And again, this is just to give you a quick way to view all of your billing information. And you can see that this is the invoice we just entered, 100 Venture LLC. The amount received 8,755, and the total invoice amount. And yeah, let's move forward. So next you have your invoice templates. So now we want to generate an invoice. It's time to generate an invoice. So you can see that this invoice is generating invoice 01, but we want to generate invoices for the new invoice, the payment we just received, the invoice we just entered. So if we go to the invoice creation tab to generate an invoice, all you have to do is select the invoice number from the drop down that you want to generate. And let's generate invoice 21, which is the invoice we just entered. And here you have the option to bill to a client or to a parent client. So if you want to bill out to 100 Venture LLC solely, you can select client. But if you want to bill out to the parent client, these 3 clients are grouped under this parent client Fisher Sisters. Say we want to send out an invoice for all clients under the Fisher Sisters umbrella. What we'll do is we'll just select parent instead, and the parent information will generate on the invoice template instead. You can see it says Fisher Sisters here, which is the parent client, versus if we select client, and now look, you can see that 100 Venture is generating. So let's take a deep dive into the invoice that we just entered. So here's the invoice number that pulls automatically, the invoice date that we entered, March 19th, and the due date, April 18th. Here is the client information that we're billing to. So again, this information pulls from the client tracker tab. It's going to pull this information that we've entered here. And here is the company information that you entered on the setup tab over here. And in this spot over here is a spot for you to paste your company logo. You might want to, you might not, but if you don't want to, you could just delete this. But I'd suggest copy and pasting your company logo on the top right here. To go and dive further down into the invoice, here are the different items that we entered on the invoice creation tab for our invoice 21. So if we look at invoice 21, you can see that line item description number 1 was tax services, and here was the detail, and 3,500 was the amount. So that's this information right here. And also for number 2, which is audit services, you can see the audit services was entered in invoice details number 2. And invoice details number 3 was 2000 compliance, and you can see that that's generating here. And if we, just so you can see how it generates, if we did add another invoice detail number 4, do a copy and paste really quick, and take a look at that invoice, you can see that it's generated here. And on the bottom, the total invoice amounts and tax and discounts populate automatically in the invoice total. So again, this is all generated automatically for you. And there's 5 different pre-made invoice templates. So whichever one you like best, you can use. Here's a spot for your company logo as well for you to copy and paste. And let's take a look at the others just so you get a quick view. This is the 3rd one, the 4th one. And the great thing about this, one of the good things about this workbook is there's no security or protection. So if you do want to change the format or the color, you have the ability to. And this is the 5th one. And lastly is our own invoice template tab. So this tab kind of gives you the flexibility to start fresh. And if you want to give making your own invoice or using your own company invoice template a shot, this tab is where you'll do that. And just to show you quickly how easy it is, if you enter your item and your description and your quantity and your price, and all the information for you to generate your invoice for this invoice 21 that's selected is over here on the right. So all you have to do is just do an equals, and let's pull this item and description and quantity and price. So again, this tab gives you the flexibility to create your own invoice, and you'll have to do a little bit with the formatting, but it gives you that option to work and create your own invoice. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the demo. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to shoot me a message on Etsy or send me an email. Thanks.